I am currently on my 10th playthrough of the Pragmata Sketchbook demo, just eagerly awaiting the full release on April 17th, when I noticed something while hacking that should not be there. Specifically, when you expand the interface to open high security doors, you can see different layers of Diana's code. Some are standard executable commands like initialize or start, but others contain learning data that goes a lot deeper. Now, these UI elements are definitely not intended for the players to see. They move fast and are buried under layers of technical jargon, but I was on my detective timing here and managed to get a closer look at all of the fine details. In that data, I found something extremely surprising, and I hope you have a little bit of time because we might be here unpacking this for a little while. Tucked into those strings is a beautiful, strangely specific description of a city decorated with shimmering glass and a blue sky that is cool at the bottom. Pretty much a lot of visually descriptive words that'll make your eyes open. While this might just seem like filler or flavor text, it's actually a direct excerpt from a real-world work, the 1924 original preface and advertisement for The Restaurant of Many Orders by Kenji Miyazawa. He is essentially the grandfather of Japanese children's literature, and this text is where he first introduced the world to Ihatav, his fictional utopia based on his real-world home in Iwate. Interestingly, the game swaps the original name, Morio City, for Malia, a deliberate evolution of the lore baked right into Diana's code. Having read the book myself, I can definitely see how this text has massive relevance to the plot of our story. Because this literary connection is so deep, there are so many possibilities for how this information may manifest in the final game. To make sense of it all, I've broken down a few different theories ranging from the hidden intricacies of the world of Pragmata to the potential origin of Diana's soul. For those that haven't read it, The Restaurant of Many Orders follows two arrogant hunters who get lost in a mountain forest. They find a luxurious restaurant called the Wildcat House and follow a series of increasingly strange orders, like putting cream on their faces, salt on their bodies, thinking that they are being prepared to eat a fancy meal. In reality, they are the ones being seasoned to be eaten by a supernatural entity. It is a story about the hunters becoming the hunted through their own greed and lack of awareness. While this is shaping up to be a spicy section to talk about, let's take a second and talk about something I saw in the game's assets. You guys may already be aware that I data mined the Sketchbook demo, and in that process I noticed a strange detail. While looking at the models in Blender, I found a real-world forest texture reflected on the surface of some of the building meshes. It could just be a placeholder, but in a game set on a desolate moon, seeing a lush green forest hidden in the glass feels like a direct nod to the shimmering landscapes Kenji describes. It's as if the world itself is being rendered through the very data Diana is processing. Now, back to the main course. I've made a stark observation based on recent video previews of the New York stage that feels incredibly ominous because of how closely it mirrors the central trap in Kenji's work. Creators have mentioned a sequence prior to the boss fight where Diana is intrigued by a cat. She follows it so blindly that she almost falls over a bridge just to interact with it. I noticed the same exact behavior in a past trailer as well, where she's chasing a cat and nearly falls off of a platform just to reach it. There is clearly a pattern of her being lured in by this cat, which is the exact same tactic used by the entities in the Wildcat House to lead the hunters to their doom. But there's a layer to this that I just realized. Cats are said to have 9 lives, aren't they? They are the universal symbols of rebirth. This is where her personality of being almost lackadaisical about her own safety becomes a real problem. In the gameplay, she seems fully aware that she's a robot, a being of matter, so the concept of getting hurt doesn't seem to register. Perhaps it's because she subconsciously believes that she can just be rebirthed again. But what she doesn't realize is that the lunar space colony is now desolate. There are no people left to assist in the process of rebirth, no facilities left to rebuild her. For her, a fall from a high platform is just a reset. But Hugh knows that every risk she takes is a threat to a soul that can never be recovered. If the environment is using her curiosity about her own 9 lives as a weapon, it's a trap that might eventually get her killed. If Diana is a human consciousness that has been rebirthed into this machine, her obsession with this cat might actually be a subconscious recognition of her own cycle. There are many other elements to consider from the Restaurant of Many Orders that may affect Diana's development. For one, the 2 hunters actually traveled with 2 white polar bear-like dogs that died in the mountains from starvation early in the story. However, in the climax, these dogs miraculously resurrect to save the men from the Wildcat house in the end. Once their mission is served and the hunters are safe, the dogs simply vanish into thin air. Diana is a being of matter, right? Created for a purpose that we don't fully understand yet. Perhaps she is learning from this fable that her ultimate purpose is one of self-sacrifice as well, willing to vanish once she has ensured Hugh's safety. This story could also be a lesson in trauma. The end of Miyazawa's book, even after the hunters are saved, their faces remain permanently puckered and wrinkled like paper as they travel back to Tokyo. A physical scar of the terror they experienced that will never go away. Perhaps Diana has experienced, or will experience, a trauma so deep that those sectors of her code cannot be rebuilt, leaving her permanently scarred. Or this could simply be a story of growth. She might be a student using this children's story to build a foundation of her own consciousness. By consuming Miyazawa's vibrant, descriptive language, she's learning how to have human emotions and understand the world through a lens that is much more complex than binary code. This ties into Miyazawa's greater philosophy, where the lines between the real world and the imagined are constantly blurred. In his works, a dream can be just as real as a physical landscape. By internalizing this, Diana's human emotions might become so real and pure that they transcend her programming, making the girl and the machine indistinguishable. Another tie-in to Miyazawa's literature becomes even more haunting when you look at the Delphi Corporation. In the Sketchbook demo, there's a specific line of dialogue where the worker named Megan mentions that there were no children on site, but suggests that workers would be perfect caretakers if there were children on site. This points to a dark possibility. Diana might have actually been a human child on the site who was rebirthed into this machine. If that was to be the case, those lines from the Restaurant of Many Orders found in her UI aren't just random learning data, they are actually residual memories. It's as if during the transition from human to matter, she held on to the one thing that made her feel safe, a favorite childhood story. These fragments of shimmering glass and cool blue skies are the last pieces of her humanity leaking through the code, proving that no matter how much the Delphi Corporation tries to program her, the soul of the child she once was still remains. But, the deepest layer of this mystery might just be hidden in her very name. Now, this part of the theory is of course not concrete, but it is an interesting thing to consider. If you exhaust all of the options, it does somewhat make sense. So in the trailers, she's identified as DI03367. This follows a Japanese system called Goroase, where numbers represent phonetic sounds. DI is obviously a shortened version of Diana, but it can also mean digital intelligence. It could mean die, meaning great or large. The 0 in DI03367 has 3 different ways of reading it, but usually it can be read as ma, from the word maru, or just an O. Now 33 is interesting because 1933 was the year that Kenji Miyazawa passed away. But if you read it just as it is, it would read as Mimi, and Mimi can mean ears or listening. 67, oh god, I did the thing, can be read as Mu and Na, or Muna, which is a shortened version of saying Muna Shi, which means void, empty, or vain. So if you read it all together, it would read as Digital Intelligence, Great Ears of the Void. Which brings us back to Kenji Miyazawa, because one thing I read about him was that he seemed to have this supernatural listening, where the sounds that he picked up around him from the waves and the ground that he walked on became super vibrant descriptive language for his poems. But what do you think after seeing all of this information? Do you believe that this could be a story of sacrifice, a story of the hunters becoming the hunted, or something entirely different altogether? I know this was long-winded, I might have jumped from place to place, but you can't lie, this information is a goldmine. There are so many possible connections that tell us the story of Pragmata. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think is gonna happen? I look forward to responding to you all and getting into this discussion. But that's all from me for today, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.
Diana?
Yeah? What?
See this spot? You think we can get here in one piece?
Yeah! We'll go, and if you don't get hurt, that means it's safe. Let's go!
Sounds like a plan.